What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fishing with Wes. Today I want to go over my drop shot technique and my setup. So I use this to target mostly vertical fish. I don't even use a graph most of the time. If I'm on a lake or a reservoir, I'm using this to basically anything like a bridge, a pylon, anything vertical that's deep. It's worth throwing a drop shot in there at least a couple times just to see what happens. I always have one tied on, like I said, especially if I'm in reservoirs, which I'm fishing 70% of the time. So if you're on a reservoir, especially a clear water reservoir with spotted bass, you can't go wrong having this on. It always helps to have one of these in your kayak or on your boat. And like I said, once you pull up to like a bridge or a pylon or anything vertical, you can take this, grab it, just toss it in there. You're not going to be making long casts with this. This is not what I use it for. So you can do that, but that's a whole nother story and a whole nother video. But my main setup is a Nasky 1500 Shimano reel, and it's on a St. Croix Bass X 610 medium light rod. And the reason why you want a medium light rod is because you want give in that tip, but you still want a little bit of a spine in the rod. So you'll get that parabolic bend on at the front. And when you're setting these hooks, when you set the hook, you're not going to be setting it like a weedless hook. You're not going to be reeling down and just cranking. All you're going to do is just reel into the fish and pull up and let the rod set the hook for you. That's the key with this.
That feels like a good one. And crushed it too. Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. They're holding on to bridges. Gotcha.
The other thing that I would say is a lot of people can get out of control with these drop shot setups, meaning it's a finesse technique. It's meant to be finesse. You can put huge line on it, you can do all kinds of stuff with it, but it's not what the technique really calls for most of the time. And a lot of times, and by a lot I mean a lot of times, it is an overkill. Unless you're fishing on Gunnersville for 10 pounds largemouth bass, or you're up there and they're spawning and you're sitting on a female that's 8 or 10 pounds, then yeah, I can see going up in some of the stuff. But for the most part, you just want a light, easy reel with a good drag. That's the key. And typically what I use is about 7 or 8 feet of a fluorocarbon. Right now I'm using Sunline Sniper FC 6-pound test. And then I've got that tied on to a Seagar 10-pound test, or not Seagar, sorry, Suffix braid 10-pound test. It's not 10-pound diameter, it's 10-pound test braid. And the reason I use 10-pound test braid is because, again, this is a finesse technique. And the fish do notice your line, whether you notice it or not, or believe it or not. I promise you, I've done so many hours of testing. I've gotten 3 or 4 or 5 different identical rods. I've gone to the same ponds, used the same techniques, and just alternated between the rods. Between 4-pound test, 6-pound test, 8-pound test, 10-pound test. Fish notice the difference in the line diameter, and it's a big deal. So if you don't believe me, that's fine, but this is the way I choose to fish it. Again, you can go up in line size and pound test, but this is just my preference. And again, I will go up. I'm not saying that there's no reason to not go up, but 90% of the applications, this will work just fine. And the braid, like I said, 10-pound test. Even if it says 10-pound test on braid, you're not going to break the braid. I'm sorry. And then lastly, I've got the typical weight right here on the bottom. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but that's the, I don't even know what the weights are. Probably like a 3/16 ounce or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but I eyeball them and I go, yep, that looks right. It's basically like half of a nail. And then I'll use a Gamakatsu 1/0 drop shot hook. And I'll tie that about 18 inches, 12 to 18 inches above the weight on the bottom. So this lure will suspend and it'll just stay there, right? And that's what you want. You want suspending bass. They're just suspended on docks or on bridges or anything vertical like that. So just want to go over this. Want to share my tip and my setup here, and hopefully this brings some information to you guys. Let me know if this helps. Like always, feel free to like and subscribe. It means a lot when you guys do that, and I'll try and make sure these videos keep coming out for you. Thanks, guys.